All right. We could probably start. There are only really two things on the agenda now. We originally had Yehuda was going to talk about the wandering log stuff, but not actually because he's in Israel and it's 3 a.m. there right now, so that wasn't going to work so well. And then Ivo was going to talk about the stuff he's been doing with GitHub Actions, I guess, but he can't make it, so we will see him next month. Okay, so the first thing is we talked about this before a couple times, returning, allowing a buffer list for data to be returned from writes. Currently, the only thing we record is the return value, and the output buffer is cleared explicitly by the OSD. The reason is that we have to record this in the PG log entry or in the dupe op entry so that ops are idempotent. If they get resent, you still get reliably get the same result. And the return code so far has been sufficient. But there are a bunch of cases where for class ops in particular and RGW, I had a couple of use cases that I don't actually know what they are. Maybe they're in the Trello card, where this would be really useful to just have some other small payload, presumably small. And given the size of the PG log entry, it's already like tens of bytes, maybe on the order of 100 bytes, maybe. I'm not sure exactly. It's big-ish. Adding a few bytes won't make that big a difference. Same thing for the PG dupe op, which currently has the request ID, the object version, the user version, and the return code. So it's already like 20-ish bytes. So this would probably like double the size, maybe if you're returning like a 16-byte value. Shouldn't make too big a difference. So basically, there are a couple updates to the structures to add a field. Basically, just add return VL next to return code every time it appears, and then update the OSD code to populate it. And then have a config option that sets the maximum size to something smallish, maybe 32 bytes or something in that realm at least. I think that's basically it. I think the only thing that worries me about this is, well, there are two things. The first thing is right now, the OSD does do OSD ops, and it can call into all kinds of random code in the OSD or in classes that may or may not be a write. And then when it's all said and done, it explicitly just clears the output buffer if it's a write, just to make sure that no data is sent back to the client. But it's possible that there are class ops out there, or possibly even code in the OSD that is populating that output buffer and then it's getting cleared. And so if we just allowed it to be bounded instead of cleared, it might be filled with a bunch of random gunk. So my thought is just to merge something that changes that to an assert and merge that to master and let it sit there for a couple of weeks, just to make sure that nothing that any of the QA runs trigger is actually populating the output buffer, and if so, fix it, and then add the change that actually lets you use it, populate. So that seemed like a reasonable way to address that.
That part seems fine. So it sounds to me like you're sort of envisioning large ints.
Yeah, I mean, like Matt was thinking like 16 bytes. Right now, I'm 32, which isn't quite enough.
It isn't quite enough by a factor of like 4, or that's what I'm worried about. It seems like 16 bytes as an assumption seems fine, but it's also easy to imagine things that it wouldn't be sufficient for.
Yeah, but the things that it wouldn't be sufficient for are things that you shouldn't do because they would make the PG log entries huge.
I agree.
Yeah,
but Matt has things in mind that 16 bytes would be sufficient for.
Yeah, I think that was the number that he mentioned. It's either 8 or 16, I forget. But
I'm curious to hear what use cases actually were.
Okay. I can't remember exactly. It's like a position, like after an append, you have like a position in the log where you appended it, stuff like that.
That's what
Yeah, I
concerns
was
me.
Like a cookie.
hoping to find more information in the Trello, but I don't think there is any yet. That's the only thing that's going to make me nervous as to what are we actually going to shove there. As long as it's limited, as long as we can make sure that it is limited, I think that should be fine. And it's not a bad thing totally to do. But yeah, just to get the use cases right and to set the expectations correct, this is what it's meant to do, would be probably the first thing to do.
I think having a config option that controls that maximum and then just setting it to like 16 or 32 should at least set that expectation. So you'd have to go like fiddle with some secure option in order to change it. Market dev or whatever. My recollection is it was a position. You wanted a position after an append or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that seems rational.
Yeah. Or more generally, a cookie or something, like some reference to whatever the atomic thing was that you just did, so you know what it was.
It's just that it won't survive the jump from one thing to two things.
What do you mean?
Well, if you want to return a position, maybe you want to return a position and some other piece of alignment information.
Yeah.
In the future. So it's enough for this use case. And I suppose, but generally speaking, piggybacking stuff on the PG log is going to be weird to expand. So this is probably as far as it can go.
Yeah.
We would want to do something else with the on-disk layout if we wanted to get more creative with this.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I was going to set it to 32 bytes by default, was my thinking. So that's like 2 to 4 times what they probably need. So.
Also, one more aspect is that what do we plan to do with what we're storing? Because these PG logs get trimmed automatically, so if you're expecting them to stay forever, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, it's really just, the only reason we just store them is just for the item potency. If the op gets resent. So,
okay.
So they'll go on the PG log, they'll go on the dupe, the PG log dupe T if the log is trimmed, and the dupe log, whatever, is longer. So this will basically break at the point that ops are no longer item potent. So we just pick a big number and hope for the best.
Cool.
So I guess my other question is, what should we do if a class op populates a large buffer that's bigger than the configuration option? Should it return an error, or should it just truncate the return value to be whatever?
It should return an error.
Okay.
Yeah, truncating it would be really strange behavior.
It would silently like behave. Yeah. Like E-range or E.
It would be hard to imagine a situation where
something.
The user wouldn't want an error there.
Yeah. Otherwise, they won't know that their thing is misconfigured. Yep. All right. Well, that's that. No, it's pretty simple.
Do you really want people to be able to configure that max write return VL size, or is that a developer only option? Like,
I would mark it as a developer option. Yeah.
Because once people use it, it's 32 bytes, and then someone goes and tweaks the option to 8, and then just breaks everything.
Yeah, then they'll break it. But yeah, we should set it as a developer. If somebody has some like bizarro Rados use case and they have short PG logs and they want it to be like a kilobyte, then like whatever, they can go for it.
Or I mean, at some point in the future, the backend might be okay with really big or something, right?
Yeah. Come up with something better.
They can always recompile their code to get the same effect, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, I updated the Trello card and the whatever, and that should be pretty straightforward, I think. So I'll do the thing sooner rather than later that just asserts
Yep.
And we can merge that to master. And so we can just wait a little while and make sure we don't have any behaving right applications.
Is there any funny behavior on cache tiers? Like there's all that special logic for like replaying.
Yes, but it won't be any more broken than it already is.
Yeah, exactly. I seem to recall actually that there was a problem. There was some annoying bug with ops being idempotent or something with that had to do with
we only
the request
transfer
IDs.
like 10 entries between tiers when we promote things. So if there's an idempotent problem after like very small number of ops.
Oh, it was the short PG logs. I had in my head that this would basically allow us to fix some annoying cache sharing problem, but I don't remember what it is now. So, case. It was wishful thinking. But anyway, I don't think it matters too much. Okay. And the second topic is RBD mirroring and making it really simple. The sort of the driver for this was we're trying to get Rook to basically bring up RBD mirroring, and there's going to be a whole bunch of crazy stuff on the Kubernetes side as far as like mapping PVs to RBD images and the claims to PVs and making all the DR stuff work. But even just getting the RBD mirroring set up in the first place is like a million steps in the docs. And so just wanting to like make that super simple. Like ideally you would have like the GUI open for 2 clusters. On one of them, you'd like click a button, it would have something that you copy and then you paste it into the other one. And assuming the network connectivity is okay, they could just like join and set everything else up themselves. I think that's the level of simplicity or whatever that we want. So I haven't looked at this JSON yet since you made notes. Do you want to walk through this and what you thought we should change?
Yeah, I was just tweaking again the CLI examples, but there'd be APIs for all this so that the dashboard could reuse the logic. But from just the starting point, like let's say cluster A, you would run the command RBD mirror pool peer bootstrap, like the action of bootstrap, a given pool, and that would just output a base64 encoded JSON blah blah. And I'm just saying base64 because that's easy to copy and paste. Like you don't have to worry about like, oh, it didn't select the full thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will give you your blob that you can then paste on the other side, which would be then on your cluster B. I'm still saying that you should keep the RBD mirror pool enable because right now we have two modes. Rook is going to default to basically only do image mode. So there's really, if it has to execute 2 CLI commands versus 1 CLI command, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's more about the key exchange that was the awkward part. So then I was just proposing the new command being the RBD mirror pool peer imports with an optional -- one way. So if you only wanted to import it, and maybe one way is even a bad terminology. Maybe it should be like receive only, because that's if you're importing it, it's basically like saying like if you're just taking somebody else's keys, that's just so you can read stuff from their cluster. So maybe that receive only would be a better option name. Again, the pool, give it a cluster friendly name. It has nothing to do with the actual like FSID or whatever. It's just a friendly name you can recognize that cluster from. And then the base64 encoded JSON file, or just kind of like RBD import. You can do a dash. You can pass it in through SVN. And I don't want
to. Friendly name for the other cluster or for ourselves, right? Like, should that go with the first step?
Yeah, I guess we'd have to go with the bootstrap step.
Cluster friendly name. Or maybe.
Or maybe when you enable it, I don't know, like, because there it's kind of weird that you're because otherwise it should already be encoded in the JSON file.
Well, it's because if it's bidirectional, then cluster A needs a friendly name for B.
No, it does. I'm just saying it's weird that it's like on an import and you're telling it my cluster friendly name. You should have already told it like your cluster friendly name. So that's why maybe we could add it to pool enable or whatever. Yeah. Like as an optional. Otherwise it would just default to Ceph.
Yeah, something like that. So up here, you would also have
or by default, it defaults to the FSID, and then you can override it with the friendly name optionally.
Something like that. I do.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid having to do the second pool enable because then in theory, if you import it, it could just copy the stats between, like make sure that both pools are in the same mode, right? Like you would. It'd be weird to have one in like image mode and one in pool mode.
Oh, right. Yeah. I wonder if this should be called like bootstrap start and bootstrap finish or something. Instead of import.
Or that it's bootstrap create and bootstrap import.
Yeah. Something like that. Just so it's clear that these are matched commands.
I'll probably do without the hyphen though, because that would match everything else with the CLI.
Bootstrap create like one word like that?
I like 2 words. Like.
Oh, I see.
Noun and the verb all the way at the end.
Okay. I mean, maybe you don't need peer then. You could just do, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. The only reason I did peer is because in theory, in unidirectional mode, we can support more than one peer.
Yeah.
So it's
So would it make sense to just make this start out with the FSIDs as a peer name and then let you rename the peer as you see fit?
Oh, that works too. That's what I said. If you do like a -- optional, like friendly name or something like that, or cluster name, like you can override it. If you don't provide it, it'll just default to the FSIDs.
Yeah.
So also, I don't want to break RBD pool peer enable and like force you to provide a friendly name.
Okay. Cool. Foo. That. Okay. So what would happen? Do you have to enable it before you set up the peers?
Yeah, right now you do.
Okay. Maybe if it isn't enabled, then it'll enable it in the default mode, since there's only one mode. I could do it implicitly. Or it could just require that it's already enabled. Yeah. Okay.
It's not that hard for Rook. It's not hard for Rook to execute 2 commands.
Yeah.
You're just trying to save the heartache of creating bootstrap keys and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we can just drop this then, right? Enabling mirror on the appropriate pools. It could enable. So should maybe RBD mirroring as part of this in general should just automatically mirror the peer mode if you're the like slave, or if you're in a peer mode and you change. Does that make sense? Is there a way to tell?
The pool mode?
Like if you have two pools and 2 different clusters that are peered, they're already set up, and then you like change the mode on the pool.
Yeah, we don't track that metadata right now.
Okay.
Who would be the master of that?
Yeah. But when you do the bootstrap, it could, since the import is the.
That's why I say let's say on the new pool peer bootstrap import, it could just say whatever my current mode is, I'm going to apply it to the remote cluster.
Okay. Should it be the other way around, where you enable it up here? Maybe. So you do RBD mirror pool enable pool, and then when you import, Is it wrong to think of the starting one as the source and the second one as the destination? Or it really doesn't matter, I guess, right? Because it's bidirectional by default.
It is bidirectional by default, but yeah, if you have that Rx only option, it kind of implies that cluster B could be the destination.
So maybe we set the pool mode on this cluster A first, and then cluster B. That's pool mode based on cluster A. That.
Sure.
Okay. So you think maybe we should just skip all this stuff that like depends on RBD mirror? It should just talk directly to A and to B and just go the configuration, and it's sort of your job to then spin up RBD mirror daemons accordingly.
Well, so Rook's already gonna be doing that, right? So
yeah.
And the dashboard shows you your status of which RBD mirror daemons are running and if they have any errors.
Yeah. So. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think maybe we could just drop these two, right?
It's less work for me, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Okay. And eliminating the
especially the OSD connectivity, because that's like test every single like OSD.
Yeah. Well, when I was originally thinking about this, I thought it was going to have to be this like weird handshakey thing where like cluster A would write something into an object in cluster B, and cluster B would see it and perform something. But I forgot that the thing you're running on cluster A can actually just talk to cluster B directly and like do anything that it needs to do. So it makes it much simpler.
Yeah, it's just when your network is working, yes.
Okay. So that simplifies things, right? Really just does this idea of creating a temporary user when you do bootstrap create and then cleaning it up, does that make sense to you? Is that worthwhile, or should bootstrap create half the keys?
Yeah, in this instance, I don't think it really needs to do a bootstrap user, because it would just like it's only for the remote side to talk to your local side. If you're using admin, it's just going to create it, because there's already a profile out there called RBD mirror profile, like profile RBD, like cap.
Yeah. But the second step,
the bootstrap only allows you to go create new keys that have that profile. So if you already have the permissions to create whatever, because you're logged in as admin, there's no point of creating a bootstrap just to go create.
For B, that's the case, but the cluster B, the bootstrap import command, needs to do things on cluster A that involves setting up.
Oh yeah. You don't want that one to have that one to have the admin.
Yeah. I think that was my thinking. You'd use a temporary bootstrap.
But it doesn't need one though, because the JSON file would have the FX for the RBD mirror profile, and it would just directly import it. And then cluster B, when it wants to inject something on the other side, it would use that cap that it was given to talk to cluster B, right?
Okay. It could create the use. Yeah.
And then since you're on cluster B, it has the admin in theory cap, and you can create a local user that has the RBD profile just to give that one over to cluster A.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Maybe it as a last step though, it could just verify that all of the capabilities that it has set up actually work on both ends. Just in case you were fed like a bogus, like maybe you ran
it has to log in with those. Yeah, with those.
Yeah. Okay.
Those keys. So.
All right.
I guess the only thing you would test to be that if you did a get or create key, but you're doing that in the same process, so that would be like you issued a mon command and it gave you a bogus key back to you on the same cluster that you want. I mean, yes, you can log into the same cluster using that key just to verify that it works prior to giving it over to cluster A.
Yeah. and the other way around.
But there's no user in the loop on that one, as opposed to like the base64 encoded like JSON blob where someone can like muck with it or.
Right. I think it would just be like you could run pure bootstrap create on cluster A, and then like go delete the users that it created, and then run the import on cluster B. And we want the
but then it wouldn't be able to go talk to that. It has to talk to that cluster to go set up.
Yeah. Okay.
Cluster B's okay. Caps for cluster A, so
perfect.
It would fail in that step.
Sounds good. Okay. Cool. Okay. Seems pretty cool then. That's what I thought it would be. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool. All right. I guess I'm just thinking like the next step here is looking at the status of the RBD mirror daemons and whether they're up and happy. Is that just a matter of looking at like Ceph-S on both clusters? You should see RBD mirror with like it's like daemon status or something. Like what's the current way that you monitor these things?
So yeah, the dash will just tell you that the daemons are running, but then there's the Ceph service dump, or I always mess up which one it is. It's like the status or the dump, but one of them probably status, because that's the one that then shows you like the RBD mirror daemon injects like little like JSON formatted into it saying like, hey, for this given pool, I'm replicating this many images, I have this many errors, here are the errors I have, I can't talk to the remote peer or whatever. And that's what like the Ceph dashboard actually then parses that and then prints it out with like little green, yellow, red icons to say like, hey, there's a warning, or hey, there's an error with mirroring.
Okay. This is kind of unrelated, but can we get that same information on from Ceph-S? Like maybe we should make it so like
is there like a verb
they're concise. No, but we can make it. I mean, we usually have like lots of information crammed into some like concise string and some like goofy ad hoc way. But maybe instead of just saying two daemons running, you say which pools are okay, warning or error or whatever, something like that. Something to think about. It'd be nice if you could just type Ceph-S and you would see like they're okay.
Wherever the pulse has status from, pull it from the service status.
Yeah, it's pretty generic right now. Okay, cool, good.
Yeah, well, so on the topic of RBD mirroring, so as part of this snapshot mirroring that we're working on right now, right now statusing is kind of like you can only see the status of your side of like how are things looking on your side. So one of the tweaks as part of this is then to basically mirror the status on both sides. So you can say like, yeah, my side is is the primary, but on the remote side it's at 50% sync or whatever. So you don't need to actually go look at the other side to say like what the current status is of the replay.
And that would apply in both cases, right? Even for the
so for the journal case and for the snapshot case. So
yeah. Cool. Yep, that'd be good.
Because then that'll be something that there's already a ticket open after this all gets in to then update the dashboard to then also expose that in the dashboard where we already showed the status on the individual images saying like, yeah, it's up and replaying, but show like, and the other side is up and replaying and it's syncing and or it's 50% behind or what have you.
Cool. Okay. How's that coming, by the way?
It really just started this week, so.
Okay. Yeah. That's
coming.
Coming. It's gonna happen.
There's some code written. Doesn't do anything.
Cool. All right. All right. Well, that's everything we had on the list. Anything else on people's minds?
There was one thing that came up recently, this respawn thing. I didn't realize this, but apparently the manager respawns itself if the active modules change. It seems like kind of odd behavior.
Yeah, it's because I couldn't get Python to tear down properly without like crashing or getting stuck. I can't remember what it was. But basically, the CPython stuff just like didn't clean up in a nice way. So, we could probably change it so that it only respawns if you disable a module, but if you enable one, we can just add a new environment. That'd probably be pretty reasonable change, but for like shutting down one, it just didn't. That was my recollection, at least. You can probably just go back in the Git history, and it'll say can't quite remember.
Okay. Yeah, this kind of came up because during an upgrade suite, we weren't actually restarting the manager, but it was getting restarted anyway by the respawn.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Expected.
I see. Right. Yep. Yeah. I think I ran into that. Yeah. Point. Yeah, we can put that on the Trello board. Was it causing a problem, or is it just making the test confusing?
I think it was causing some kind of failure, so then we just added the actual restart to the suite and again.
Enabling modules.
Well, I think it was that if it restarted while it's like in the middle of a VM or whatever half install, that it would pull in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was incompatible with like libceph common. That was it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that. Well, I think the trick is that that we're also probably going to hit is that if we do this upgrade orchestration through the orchestration layer, then the manager will actually get upgraded first, and then it'll be running this module that's orchestrating the upgrade. And as soon as all the monitors get upgraded, they're probably going to like enable all the new always-on manager modules for the next version, and that'll then trigger a restart on the manager. Which I guess hopefully shouldn't matter because the upgrade stuff should be written so that it's idempotent, stateless, whatever, so you can restart it. But
probably we could version the Ceph-common library to address this problem. So it's different version of a manager, and then the one that shares the same version of a Ceph manager, even though they're not API compatible.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth it because we're moving towards containers anyway, so this like won't be such a big deal. Like when the manager respawns in the near future, it'll be at the exact same version. It won't actually implicitly upgrade. But I think making it not respawn when it's enabling new modules would probably be an easy thing too, because that's 90% of the time that's the case. It's, I think, comparatively rare that you disable modules anyway. So that should eliminate most restarts. Yeah, well, I added it to the Trello backlog, at least.
Okay, cool.
Whenever we get around to it, depending on how important it is. I don't know if it matters or not.
Yeah, it might not matter too much. Like you said, people probably aren't disabling modules too often. Changing active modules.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Let's see. Oh, Jason, your other item is on the list here for Octopus, the object purge op to delete an object and all its clones.
Oh yeah, from RBD repair. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. I think in principle it should be okay, but it will have to be it'll be slightly tricky because we need to make sure that cleanup is consistent with whatever the trim object path is doing. And right now, trim object is the only way that clones ever get removed. So we'll just have to make sure that we don't miss anything. But
yeah, in whatever way is easiest. If it's just like an app that says for this given object name, delete all clones and the head revision, or yeah, I have to give it a specific. I have to give it a specific call to say delete head, delete the snapshot, and like walk backwards down the snapshot history. I'm fine either way because I have that data.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Trying to think what else is going on. Anybody else have anything? I have one short topic that we could discuss. One of the things that's been on my list for forever is unifying the Ceph tel and Ceph daemon commands. And I think Josh, you brought this up the other day.
Yeah, I think we talked about this the CDM last month or something.
I went and looked at it today, and my recollection was that the mmon command and mcommand messages were all mixed up. And they are in basically two ways. Mmon command is a Paxos service message, so it has to go to the monitor, and it like blocks on quorum and all that stuff, and it's used for CLI commands. Mcommand is used for all the other daemons, and it's mostly used for tel, except in the manager case, CLI messages can also get sent via an mcommand. So I just pushed the first pull request in the cleanup, which basically adds a new mmanager command that should be used, is intended to be used for CLI commands. So if a CLI goes to a manager module, then it goes through mmanager command. That way, mcommand will be used exclusively for tel when you're sending it to an explicit daemon in sort of a lossy one-shot sort of way. That would be the first part. And then the second part is that right now when you do tel on a monitor, it's just like, it's totally broken, right? It's not totally broken, but it's like super, it's not really very good. It basically makes them on client like try to drop all the other connections to monitors and only connect to one, and it sends those tel commands as mmon commands. It's also sort of wrong. So I think the fix is going to be to have like a different path for tel to the monitor and actually sends a different type of message, and hopefully doesn't disrupt all the other monitor sessions. And that's probably not a super high priority. I don't know how important the mon tel commands are, but I think that would be the right endpoint at least. And then the last step would be to go daemon by daemon and basically make it so those tel commands go into the same path as the ASOC admin socket commands, so that we can have one set of handlers that do both. That's the thinking. I think there's a little bit of weirdness because the tel commands have one of those goofy macros that lets you define like the JSON arguments the way the CLI commands do, whereas the daemon commands are just like a vector of strings. They're not as fancy. So I think we probably just pick one or the other that we want to standardize on and then go with it. Line the two. Yep, that's about it.
Yeah, sounds like a reasonable path to me. I guess the last step of trying to gather all the places where we have admin socket commands registered might be a little bit annoying, but they're kind of spread out now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, my initial thought, I was just starting to look at this today, was just to basically add there's the admin socket class that's attached to your Ceph context. Basically just add a method on there where you just pass it an m command. And it just dumps it into the same work queue that's doing your other admin socket command. So it's like one thread that's processing both. And then
yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
None of them should be like super long-lived or anything.
Yeah. Yep. There's already a worker thread for it. The OSD has it's a worker thread for the tel commands, but this is basically just collapse that thread into the existing Ceph context thread, which should be fine also. anyway. Okay. Plugging away at that, I guess. All right. Anything else? Okie doke. Keep it short then. Thanks, everyone.